Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Today I wanted to discuss what is a highly sensitive person. And I think that there is this negative connotation in society about, being a little bit too sensitive and, not being vulnerable, not letting your true feelings out. And, that's a sign of weakness in some way. And, what is a highly sensitive person? What does that term mean? A lot of people probably haven't heard of that. And I became really interested in this topic because I realized that I'm a highly sensitive person, and a highly sensitive person or highly sensitive people encompass about 15 to 20% of the population, and pretty much what it is are these people are extra sensitive in all 5 senses. So I'm going to go through a couple of the traits that these people encompass and kind of try to describe some of the ways that you can try to, utilize those gifts in the world and really try to harness that, because it's really a powerful gift if you can learn how to identify the triggers that that make you somewhat sensitive, and really learn how to speak up and assert yourself in a positive way. So what are some of the traits of a highly sensitive person? So I, as a child, even as a 5-6-year-old kid, I was always a crier. I always cried, and I was always very sensitive to, environments, to, even in the lunchroom. I remember when I was a 5-year-old kid in elementary school, I hated going to the lunchroom because everybody was just running around. It was noisy. Kids were throwing milk cartons everywhere. And it was just too much overstimulation for me. I hated it. I hated the lunchroom. And that is just the typical sign of a highly sensitive person. They hate overstimulation. They don't like loud noises. They like to be oftentimes one-on-one with someone, or, just they need to kind of decompress and recharge. Like, say they go to a concert or they go to a social gathering where they're bombarded with a lot of noise or something. They need to kind of retract back into their shell and come back to their house and kind of recharge their battery, recharge their energy. And so even in college it was hard for me because freshman year I lived in a room, in a dorm with 8 other people, so it was constant people coming in and out, and it's too much for me, and that was just overwhelmed all my senses. And I like living alone. I like having my space, and that's just me. Not everyone's like that, and that's what I mean by highly sensitive people. Like, it's about 15 to 20% of the population. So that's one way that you're a highly sensitive person, is because you don't like overstimulation. The next way that is that you can definitely feel other people's emotions, and you're very sensitive to other people's emotions. You're often very conscientious and very polite to other people because you can feel their emotions. And even in movies, you can I remember, again, being a little kid, and I hated watching movies where people were in pain or dying, or scary movies I didn't like. I always wanted to just watch like a comedy or something like that. And I still, to this day, I don't like to watch stuff like that. I don't really watch the news too much. I tend to stick around positive things because it really affects me, and it affects me more so than I think it does other people. And it was actually a real challenge for me because I'm an empath, and an empath is, the root word of that is, it comes from empathetic. If you think about it, like, I'm a very empathetic person, so I feel a lot. So the reason why I started studying all of this was because I was working in an environment where I was working with someone who, every time she came into the office, I really started feeling her energy. And if she was tense, I would get this tension in my back, and I would actually feel it. And I said to myself, why am I feeling this amount of tension from someone? Like, I should just be able to go to work and not have to worry about this. And so I started researching and looking all of these things up because that's just what I do. I'm just a very curious person. I look things up, and I started reading about highly sensitive people. So some of the ways that you can kind of learn how to cope with this, you know, because it's not a bad thing to be highly sensitive. It's actually a really good thing. You can utilize that gift in a lot of different professions, in the healing arts, like being a healer, or being a pharmacist or a social worker, something in the medical profession. And you know, it's great to, you know, to have that type of compassion, that level of understanding when you're working with somebody one-on-one, because people need to be heard, they need to be understood, and to know that you're not going to just sit there and judge them. So being a sensitive person is actually one of the greatest gifts. Like I would not change it for the world. And I've actually learned how to harness my sensitivity and not let it affect me. Whereas before I was very ungrounded, and I would let the emotions of other people really just eat me alive, and I would let them really rattle me. And now I've learned how to be more grounded. And there's a lot of different tools that you can use for that. You know, it's really about learning how to assert yourself, learning how to set boundaries, healthy boundaries with people, and also learning, like I said, how to kind of come home and just recharge your batteries, learning how to nourish your body, making sure that you're not having too much caffeine and you're not too wired, not too overstimulated. So there are a lot of different ways that you can learn how to kind of calm your system and ground your system, so that you're not too overstimulated, and that you can actually take care of your needs and your body, so that, you know, you can survive in this world. Because sometimes it's just, there's a lot going on and you can be really overwhelmed. So for all those people that are very sensitive, you know, you might be prone to anxiety and depression. You know, there are a lot of people out there who feel a lot. And you know, for example, Robin Williams, I mean, I just read an article from BBC News. He was actually one of the most, they said his daughter was saying he was one of the most gentle souls out there. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. People who often have addictions, like, you know, alcoholism, or, you know, drug problems, those are the people with the biggest hearts, because they don't want to feel. They feel so much that they need to numb themselves so that they don't feel. So, you know, I completely understand, you know, the highly sensitive person, the person that just, you know, doesn't really know how to deal with all of these things, you know, all of the overstimulation in life. But I promise you, it is the biggest gift, and you can utilize it if you know how to harness it. So I will be posting a link below on the way to know if you are highly sensitive. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I encourage you to leave comments, and I want to hear from you. So feel free. I mean, I want to know, you know, questions, email me, let me know if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down if you hate it. But I hope that you enjoyed this one. So thanks. See you tomorrow.